I love Marial. She's a true friend in the sense that she's honest with Catherine, but then she's still honest to herself. You guys are also both enjoying a higher rank. What is that like? Do you want to start things off, Phoebe?
Obviously, it's amazing for Marial that she gets reinstated as a lady. It was great for me as the actor. And what was so wonderful is that because the cast, of course, was the same as season one, but also a lot of our crew was the same. And people were just so pleased for me. I remember so clearly the first day I came on set dressed as a lady, like the gaffer and the boom operator were just like, good for you, Marial. Yeah, it's just like, I think that joy is just, it's pervasive throughout season two for me and for Marial. All that angsty anger and I don't know, all the unease has kind of fallen away, and she's just reveling in regaining that status, maybe reveling a bit too much. You know, she's not really mindful of what else is going on at court, maybe mindful of how tenuous her position is. But it was great fun. I get to explore the joyful things in life, like fashion and love and gluttony.
I think in season one, we already saw Orlov on his own kind of road to enlightenment and finding himself. And that continues in season two on a greater level because Catherine finally takes the throne. It's a life-changing moment for Orlov. He's waited his whole life for this to happen so Russia can be great again. What was really nice in this season is with that change, Orlov has newly found status, power. He literally becomes like a rock star overnight. So it was really good to kind of still play the political bookish side of him, but it was really nice to enjoy the moment. Like he's a bit more, he experiments with his sexuality, which is really beautiful to play. But at the same time, I think Catherine is slightly naive to think that she can implement all these huge changes overnight. She really pays the price for doing that. And actually what you start to see is Orlov and Catherine's relationship becomes fractious. Their relationship is tested. It has to happen, but it's sad as well because they're so close to one another. But sometimes they have to go through that in order to make themselves stronger. This is such a new thing for them. They're both still quite young, if you know what I mean. And they're having to make huge decisions.
Well, and that kind of happens for Marial. She's going through like this own, that she went through that, I think, season one, where she was, balancing her own position with her own growth. I think it's great seeing how everything is unfolding because you get a better sense of who they are as individuals rather than just, I don't say servants because they're advisors really to Catherine. What has that been like, exploring the more personal side to your character?
What's so great about this show for me is, initially I was like, oh, this is going to be a show about Catherine the Great. But it's not. We're not making a historical documentary. So even though the show centers around Catherine the Great, it's also really about these characters that exist in the court. When we're making the show, things are always evolving and changing. I think what you see in this season is you think, oh, we've established these relationships and these characters interact with those characters. So what you'll see in this season is characters that maybe have not interacted with each other are suddenly forming new relationships. And that's, it's a real joy to play. So it feels less about just representing history. It feels like a contemporary piece of television.
And then Phoebe, I was curious, she has this weird relationship with the Archbishop and I don't entirely understand it. Could you explain it for people like me?
I think the reality is that Marial's upbringing was not that great. Although I think, her parents had high status in court. Her mother died very young and her father was an alcoholic at best and probably quite violent at worst. The only person who really looked after her was her older cousin, who was Archie. she can forgive him all his foibles. She can forgive him all his eccentricities because he's the only one who's ever truly cared for her. All of our experiences of family, you know, on some level, like you love them even though you hate them. You know, and I think also just actually as actors, he's such a wonderful, glorious human being, Adam Godley. It's impossible not to fall in love with him a little bit. And actually doing the scenes together are so great because you're right, they have a weird relationship, you know, and it sometimes seems like they're kind of, it's a little sexually charged as well. But I think that's the way that they poke at each other, like siblings.
We see your wardrobe, it's totally different. I mean, both of you guys get to experiment more with your appearances. What was that like for you? Was it exciting to just kind of, I guess, play around a bit more with your appearance?
Amazing. I had one costume in season 1, basically. And it was so generic that often there would be essays on set dressed as servants. And I'd be like, that's me? Like, that's such a weird, because, you know, we have exactly the same costume. So I was really looking forward to, you know, fully expressing myself as a lady in my costume. And it was amazing the first meeting I had with her and trying on my costume for the first time, because it was so exuberant. The first costume I wear has this massive, like, hot pink sash with a bow on it. She really didn't hold back at all, and hot pink shoes. But as ever, like, the reality is, like, the shoes hurt. They like pinched and they were too small. And like, you wear these beautiful dresses, but the reality of wearing them for 12 hours a day is just, it's absolutely brutal. It is beautiful and wonderful to wear them, but after 8 months, you can get a little jaded.
You're going through a lot this season. What was the most exciting part for you?
You were talking before about costumes. Sharon, who you spoke to, is an amazing costume designer, and she's really brilliant at making the costumes look spectacular, but they also feel really contemporary as well. So my costume was corduroy. It's like a really cool current fabric. I also wanted Orlov to kind of be a little looser this year, you know, a bit more confident in himself. So she's really good at kind of not necessarily respecting the etiquette of how you're supposed to wear this. So if you want to wear your tie in a certain way, you want to loosen your buttons, put your hands in your pockets. She really embraces that, and it just works perfectly for the tone of the show. But sorry, in answer to your question, you were saying about the season, I think with any new show, the first season you've got to set up this epic story and the characters. But with season 2, we can just we know each other. We know how to slip into this very specific tone, so we kind of hit the ground running. And so as much as it's about Catherine the Great, Tony's introduced so many different storylines, characters, ideas, unexpected twists and turns, and it's like Catherine invented the roller coaster. It's a roller coaster of a ride.